My name is Alex, and I thought I knew everything about loneliness until I met him. The man who only appeared at 3 a.m., camera in hand, photographing shadows in the rain. I never expected that delivering late-night coffee would change my life forever. But some encounters are meant to happen in the darkness, when the world sleeps and hearts speak louder than words. What I'm about to tell you happened over 7 nights. 7 nights that turned my ordinary life into something extraordinary. And by the end, you'll understand why I can never look at rain the same way again. It was past midnight when my manager handed me the strangest delivery order we'd ever received. Coffee to the old bridge on Maple Street. Cash payment. No questions asked. The address made no sense. There were no buildings there, just the abandoned railway bridge that the city forgot to tear down. I should have said no. Should have told him to find another driver. But rent was due in 3 days, and the tip was too good to refuse. The rain was coming down hard that October night, the kind that makes you question every life choice that led you outside. My windshield wiper struggled against the downpour as I navigated through empty streets. The city looked different at this hour, vulnerable, honest, stripped of its daytime pretenses. When I reached Maple Street, I saw him. He was standing under the bridge, completely soaked, holding an expensive camera, like it was made of gold. Tall, lean, with dark hair plastered his forehead, and the kind of jaw that belonged in magazines. He wore a black leather jacket that clung to his frame, and when he turned toward my headlights, I saw eyes that seemed to hold secrets. I parked and grabbed a coffee, my heart doing something strange in my chest. As I approached, he looked up from his camera, and for a moment, time seemed suspended in the falling rain. "You're the coffee guy," he said. His voice was deep, slightly raspy, with an accent I couldn't place. "That's me," I replied, suddenly aware how mundane I must look in my delivery uniform. Though I have to ask, why here, in this weather? He smiled then, a slow, mysterious curve of his lips that made my stomach flip. The rain changes everything, makes the world honest. He took the coffee from my hands, his fingers brushing mine for just a second. "I'm Ethan." "Alex," I said, probably too quickly. That's when I noticed something odd. His camera wasn't getting wet despite the rain. And when lightning flashed, I could have sworn I saw someone watching us from the shadows above the bridge. But when I looked again, nothing was there. "Same time tomorrow?" Ethan asked, pulling me back to reality. "Tomorrow? The coffee. I'll need it again." I should have asked why. Should have asked a dozen questions. Instead, I just nodded and watched him disappear into the rain, leaving me with more questions and answers and a feeling I couldn't name. I spent the entire next day thinking about him, about his eyes, his voice, the way he held that camera like it contained his soul. My co-workers noticed my distraction, but how could I explain that a stranger in the rain had somehow rewired my brain in 30 seconds? By evening, I was counting down the hours until midnight. This time, I brought an umbrella, not for me, but for him. It seemed crazy, caring about a stranger getting wet, but nothing about the situation felt normal anyway. He was there again, same spot, same intense focus on whatever he was photographing. But tonight, he wasn't alone. A woman stood nearby, elegant even in the rain, holding what looked like old photographs. She was speaking to Ethan in hushed tones, their conversation stopping abruptly when they saw my headlights. My chest tightened with something that felt uncomfortably like jealousy. The woman disappeared into the shadows as I approached with his coffee. Ethan's expression was unreadable. "Friend of yours?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Something like that," he replied, accepting the coffee. His mood seemed darker tonight, troubled. "Alex, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you believe in second chances?" The question caught me off guard. What kind of second chances?" He studied my face in the dim light, the kind that cost everything but might save your soul. Before I could respond, we heard footsteps on the bridge above us. Slow, deliberate footsteps that stopped directly overhead. Ethan's entire body tensed, and he grabbed my arm. "We need to go. Now." "What's wrong?" "Trust me," he said, his grip firm but gentle. "Just trust me." We ran to my car, rain pelting our faces, my heart pounding for more than just a sprint. As I started the engine, I saw a figure on the bridge, tall, menacing, watching us escape into the night. "Who was that?" I asked when we were safely away. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Someone from my past. Someone who doesn't want me to change." "Change how?" He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw vulnerability beneath the mystery. I've been living in shadows for so long, Alex. But lately I've been thinking about what it might be like to step into the light. I arrived early the third night, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. But Ethan wasn't at the bridge. Instead, I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. Alex, meet me at the 24-hour diner on 5th Street. It's time you knew the truth. E. The diner was nearly empty, fluorescent lights humming over cracked vinyl booths. Ethan sat in the back corner, still in his black leather jacket, but without the camera for the first time. He looked younger somehow, more vulnerable under the harsh lighting. I slid into the booth across from him, noticing the way his hands trembled slightly around his coffee cup. You're going to think I'm crazy, he said without preamble. Try me. He took a deep breath. I'm not who you think I am. My real name is Ethan Pierce, and until 6 months ago, I was engaged to be married. My heart sank. Married? To a woman, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Her name was Victoria. Beautiful, successful, everything my family expected. The perfect wife of the perfect son of a perfect conservative family. I waited, sensing there was more. The wedding was supposed to be the social event of the year. 500 guests, cathedral ceremony, reception at the country club. I had everything planned down to the last detail. His laugh was bitter. Everything except how to fake loving someone for the rest of my life. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was taking engagement photos when I met him, the photographer's assistant, David, and in one afternoon, he showed me what I'd been missing my entire life. What happened? I fell in love, Ethan said simply. Real love. The kind that makes you understand why poets go crazy and artists starve. But it also destroyed everything I thought I knew about myself. My chest tightened. And Victoria? I couldn't go through with it. Called off the wedding, broke her heart, disappointed my family, lost most of my friends. But David, his voice broke slightly. David got scared. Said he couldn't be responsible for ruining my life. He left town the day after I canceled the wedding. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. The woman you saw last night? That was Victoria. She's been trying to convince me to come back, to fix myself. And the man on the bridge, that was her brother. He's been following me, making threats. Threats? Ethan's jaw tightened. Let's just say some people don't believe in live and let live. I reached across the table and covered his hand with mine. Is that why you're out there every night? Hiding? I started taking photographs because David taught me how to see beauty in broken things. The bridge, the rain, the shadows, they're all metaphors for what I feel inside. He turned his palm up, interlacing our fingers. But lately, I've been photographing something else. What? Hope, he whispered. Every night when you show up with that coffee and that concerned look on your face, you give me hope that maybe I don't have to live in the shadows forever. We didn't go to the bridge that night. Instead, Ethan took me to his apartment, a small studio above an art gallery, filled with his photographs. Black and white images of the city at night, rain-soaked streets, abandoned buildings, and surprisingly, several shots of me delivering coffee, taken from a distance with a telephoto lens. You've been photographing me? I asked, not sure whether to be flattered or concerned. I couldn't help it, he admitted, his cheeks flushing slightly. You were the first beautiful thing I'd seen in months. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ethan, I know this is crazy, he said quickly. I know you barely know me, and my life is complicated, and you probably think I'm some kind of stalker. I kissed him. It wasn't planned. One moment I was listening to him ramble about why this was a bad idea, and the next moment I was pressing my lips to his, tasting coffee and rain, and something that might have been hope. He froze for a heartbeat, then kissed me back with a desperation that took my breath away. His hands tangled in my hair, and I could feel his heart racing against my chest. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I wanted to do that since the first night, he whispered. What took you so long? We spent the next hour talking, really talking, about his childhood in a conservative family, about my own struggles with coming out, about dreams deferred and chances missed. Somewhere between his story about art school and mine about dropping out to help support my sick mother, we ended up on his couch, my head on his shoulder, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. Alex, he said softly. Yeah, I want to try something with you. Something real. But I need you to know that it might get dangerous. I lifted my head to look at him. Dangerous how? Victoria's family has connections. Her brother Marcus isn't just making empty threats. If they find out about us, let them find out. I said, surprised by my own boldness. I'm not afraid of them. You should be, he said seriously. They've already tried to have me followed, and now that you're involved... Before he could finish, his phone buzzed with a text message. His face went pale as he read it. What is it? He showed me the screen. We know about the coffee boy. End this now, or we end it for you. I didn't hear from Ethan the next day, or the day after that. By the fifth night, I was going crazy with worry. I drove to Bridge anyway, hoping against hope that he'd be there. He wasn't, but someone else was. Marcus, Victoria's brother, stood under the bridge, smoking a cigarette and looking like he'd stepped out of a mob movie. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of cold eyes that had seen too much violence. I should have driven away. Should have called the police. Instead, I parked and got out of the car. You must be Alex, he said, his voice smooth and dangerous. The coffee delivery boy who thinks he can turn my future brother-in-law gay. Where's Ethan? Marcus smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. Ethan is remembering who he really is. Victoria's been very persuasive. My blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means you're going to stop seeing him. Stop delivering coffee to this bridge. Stop existing in his world. He dropped a cigarette and crushed it under his heel. Because if you don't, bad things might happen to good people. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you, he said, stepping closer. Ethan Pierce comes from old money, Alex. The kind of family that's been cleaning up inconvenient problems for generations. You're an inconvenient problem. And if I don't back off, then you might find yourself having some very bad luck. Accidents happen all the time to delivery drivers. Dark roads, late nights, mechanical failures. He shrugged. Tragic, really. My hand was shaking, but I stood my ground. Where is Ethan? Marcus checked his expensive watch. Right about now, getting reacquainted with his fiancée. Amazing what people will agree to when the alternative is watching someone they care about get hurt. That's when it hit me. Ethan hadn't abandoned me. He was trying to protect me. Tell him, I said, surprised by the steadiness of my own voice, that some things are worth fighting for. And tell Victoria that she can't force someone to love her. Marcus's expression darkened. You're making a mistake, boy. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. I got back in my car and drove away, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. But I wasn't giving up. If Ethan was sacrificing himself to protect me, then it was time for me to return the favor. I spent the entire next day making calls, doing research, and forming a plan that was probably going to get me killed. But sometimes love makes you brave in stupid ways. Through a friend who worked at the newspaper, I learned that the Pierce family's wealth came from some questionable business dealings. The kind that looked clean on the surface but wouldn't survive close scrutiny. Victoria's father was running for city council, and scandal was the last thing they needed. I also learned that Ethan's photography wasn't just a hobby. He'd been documenting urban decay for a series he planned to publish. Some of those photos might have captured things the Pierce family wouldn't want public. By the sixth night, I had a plan. It was risky, probably illegal, and definitely dangerous. But it was the only chance Ethan and I had. I drove to the bridge, but this time I wasn't alone. My friend Jake, who worked in tech and owed me several favors, sat in the passenger seat with a laptop and some very expensive recording equipment. You sure about this? He asked as we set up. No, I admitted, but I love him, Jake. And sometimes that has to be enough. At exactly 3 a.m., Marcus showed up, just as I'd hoped. What he didn't know was that I'd sent him a fake text from Ethan's phone, asking to meet. Where's Ethan? He demanded when he saw me. Safe, elite, but we need to talk. What followed was 15 minutes of Marcus making increasingly specific threats, while Jake's equipment captured every word. Threats about accidents, about making people disappear, about the Pierce family's methods of dealing with problems. By the time Marcus realized he'd been recorded, it was too late. Insurance. I explained, holding up my phone, which was live streaming everything to a secure server. Anything happens to me, Ethan, or anyone else we care about, and this recording goes to every news outlet in the city, along with some very interesting photos Ethan took of your family's business dealings. Marcus's face went white. You don't know what you're messing with. I know exactly what I'm messing with. And I know that your family can't afford a scandal right now. So here's what's going to happen. I continued, adrenaline making me bold. You're going to leave Ethan alone. Victoria is going to accept that the engagement is over. And your family is going to pretend this never happened. In exchange, the recording stays private, and Ethan's photos never see the light of day. And if we refuse? Then your father's campaign ends tomorrow, and the FBI gets very interested in some construction contracts from the 1990s. I was bluffing about half of it, but Marcus didn't know that. After a long, tense moment, he nodded. Fine, but this isn't over. Yes, it is. I said firmly, it's over because you're going to make sure it's over. The next night, I went to the bridge one last time. I didn't know if Ethan would be there. Didn't know if my gamble had worked. Didn't know if I'd ever see him again. But as I parked under the flickering streetlight, I saw a familiar figure standing in the shadows, camera in hand. He looked up when he heard my footsteps, and the smile that spread across his face was like sunrise after the longest night of winter. "You crazy, beautiful idiot," he said, dropping his camera to pull me into his arms. "Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? Did it work? Marcus called Victoria an hour ago. The engagement is officially, permanently over. Something about not wanting any more trouble." He cupped my face in his hands. "What did you do?" I told him about the recording, the threats, the bluff about the photos. By the time I finished, he was shaking his head in amazement. "I was trying to protect you," he said. "I know, but I didn't need protecting. I needed you. I love you," he whispered against my lips. "I love you so much it scares me." "Good," I whispered back, "because I love you too, and I'm not going anywhere." We kissed in the rain under the abandoned bridge, and it tasted like freedom and coffee and the promise of tomorrow. These days, I don't deliver coffee at 3 a.m. anymore. I quit that job 6 months ago when Ethan's photography series got picked up by a major gallery. The photos of urban decay and renewal, including several of that old bridge, are being exhibited in New York next month. We moved in together last spring to a loft apartment with huge windows and enough wall space for all his photographs. He's teaching me to see the world through his lens, to find beauty in broken things, hope in abandoned places, love in unexpected moments. Victoria got married last month to someone more suitable, a banker from her father's social circle. According to mutual friends, she seems happy. I hope that's true. Marcus keeps his distance. The recording is still safely stored on that secure server. Insurance we'll probably never need, but glad to have. And the bridge? We still go there sometimes, not to hide in shadows, but to remember how far we've come. Ethan brings his camera, I bring the coffee, and we take pictures of each other laughing in the rain. Because some love stories start in darkness, but the best ones find their way to the light. Last week, a young guy started working a late shift at the coffee shop where I used to work. He's nervous, eager to please, working extra hours to pay for art school. His name is David. Yes, that David, the photographer who broke Ethan's heart and started this whole journey. He doesn't know who I am yet. Doesn't know the story he set in motion when he got scared and ran away from love. But he will, because some stories come full circle and some second chances are worth waiting for. And that, my friends, is a story for another night. Thank you for listening to The Midnight Photographer. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel for more romantic audio stories. Your support helps us create more content about love, acceptance, and finding courage in the face of fear. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment telling us what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Remember, love is love, and everyone deserves their happy ending.